Hey Molly, basically what I want to do here is walk you through a couple basic steps that are going to help you um, figure out Photoshop and maybe how it works a little bit, um, just to get your feet wet, so to speak. So here we have Photoshop open. There's a couple different ways that you can bring items into Photoshop. You can go to File, Open, and it's going to ask you just like where you want to, what item would you like. You can do it this way, or you can simply just have your uh, documents open and you can click and drag in. Um, so right there we've just dragged in a template of a snowboard, and this is what we're going to work with. Um, there's a design already on here that I'll just get rid of so that we're not distracted by that. Um, and we'll just get rid of this little line here for a second. Okay, so here we have a snowboard and we want to throw on maybe the Burton logo. So I've already downloaded that. Now it's important to understand with CS6, if I was to drag this onto this image, what it's actually going to do is create a new layer that's called a smart layer. And I'm not sure that that's really what we want to do at this point. So instead of dragging it directly on the image to open it, what we're going to do is drag it up here to where it says copy into this little bar up here and let go. And as you can see now it is all set. So how do we get this image over to the other image? Well, the answer is to basically select it. So to select things, you can use this box if you want and draw a box around it. That selects it. Or you can hit Control A on your keyboard and it does the exact same thing. Once you have it selected, this is your move tool at the top left. You're going to, and you can see that it has the scissors here. You're going to click with your left mouse and drag it over top of the other layer and then drop it in. And you can see. Now this layer is in grayscale. This Burton logo that we had is in grayscale because you can see that the color didn't make it over. And the reason that is because this original snowboard layer was actually in grayscale. So if I was to change this to RGB, and now that this is an RGB, red, green, blue, meaning that it can now handle colors. So if we did the exact same task, now we have color. So just something important to realize what image might be in, and that's up in image and then mode. Certain images might be in different modes, so you want to try to keep things in RGB. So now we have this logo. So now we need to A, resize it, and B, we want to be able to maybe drop the opacity, which is how strong the image appears. So the first thing we'll do is we will make the image smaller. So on your keyboard, if you hit Control and T, that is Control Transform, it brings up all these different boxes on the outside. And to keep your image proportionate, what you're going to do is hold down the Shift key, left click, and just bring it down to the size that you want. And then you can move this item wherever you so desire. So we'll just, for this example, we'll put it in the center. So there we go. We have that. If we wanted to, we could rotate it very easily by hitting Control T again. And we can either grab the outsides and rotate it this way, whatever way we want to do it. So if we wanted it to look sideways, for example, we could rotate it this way. Okay, that's one way. Now in Photoshop, if you ever make a mistake and you want to go back, all you have to do is hit the Control Z on your keyboard and it takes you back to the last thing that you've done. The other way to rotate an item, as you can see on the right hand side here, we have layer 1, which is the Burton logo, which we're actually going to label just so we don't get confused. And we label that by just simply double clicking in there. And we'll just call it Burton logo. There we go. And we can actually turn layers on and off so that we can see what the project looks like without certain aspects of it. Okay, so we'll leave that on there. Um, and another way to rotate it though is to go to Image and then Image Rotation and then whatever way you want to rotate it. Now, what that just did was it rotated the whole thing. So we're going to Control Z because that's not what we wanted. If we hide the background layer and we try that again, it still rotated it. So that's something you have to be aware of, is that it's going to rotate the whole thing if you do it that way. So if you wanted to just rotate this particular image, the best way you can do it is to Control T, all right, right click, and then rotate 90 degrees or whatever direction you want it to go. All right, we'll go 90 more and 90 more. There. Okay. So we got it centered in the middle of the board. Well, as you can see over here, I have rulers set up. You may not have your rulers visible. To do so, just hit Control R on your keyboard, and that will bring them up. Rulers are really important because they allow you to make sure that things are aligned and centered and that they're the right dimensions if they have to be. And the way you can really make rulers work for you is to simply left click on the ruler and drag in, and you can see this line that's showing up. This is a snap grid, and I'm going to bring it right to there, and then I'm going to grab another one and I'm going to bring it over to here, and I can do this from the top as well. And so you can start to see that we can really make sure things are where they should be, and it's not just an eyeball. We're really making sure that it's precise. Okay? Okay, so now let's say we want to make this Burton logo a little less strong so that it's not so red. It's not the focal point of the image. Everything in Photoshop is done by layers, so we make sure that we're on the right layer, and up here we have the word opacity. So we can do it a couple different ways. We can hover over the word opacity and scroll to the left. That will do it. And as you can see, the number is dropping, and so is the opacity of the image. Or we can simply click in the box and type in our whatever one we would like. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to do that. If you wanted to, we could get rid of this and we could just add text. So over here on the left hand side we have the text tool, and of course you would have to choose what font you would be using, and I'm sure Burton has their own special font that you could probably get a hold of. So you would just simply click on whatever one it is. We'll just choose this one for this example. You would choose your size, and which we can show you how to change very quickly. Do you want it left justified, centered, or right justified? And then of course the color. And you can obviously choose from a variety of colors. So I'm just going to go ahead and click in here, and I'm going to start typing Burton. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind with Photoshop is that Photoshop does not have spell check. So it's going to become increasingly important for you to make sure that you double check your spelling. So here we have the word Burton, and we have it sitting right in there. If we really wanted to, we could bring down if we wanted it to be right in line with the bottom of these things, we could do that so that the text is sitting right on that line. That's right where we want it to be, right? And we can actually get that pretty precise. We can get that right where we want it to be. So that text looks okay. It's a little blah. So maybe we want to add some drop shadow. So how do we add drop shadow? Come over to our layer, our text layer, and this empty space over here next to the layer, we double click in, and it's going to bring up layer styles. And as you can see, you have a whole variety of options, and these are going to make live changes to your thing. So as soon as we click a button, you're going to see a dramatic change. So if we hit drop shadow down here at the bottom, and we click on the actual tool, you can see that it already added some. And we can modify this to make it look however we want. So here we're going to add a little bit of drop shadow here, maybe a little spread here, and of course you can change the size and how it looks. And then when you like it, you would hit OK. Maybe you want to add, whatever effects you choose. And again, if you want the opacity of that font to be down, you simply drop the opacity down to wherever you want it to be. Okay, so you can do it a couple different ways. Let's say we want to make the text bigger. Well, we go right back to Control T, and now we get the transforming box, and we can make the text bigger. However big we want. Now, you might be thinking, well, how do I get the letters to stretch across the whole thing? I don't, the letters are too close together. They're spaced funny. Well, this right here is our character options here, our character tool. And if you click on character, excuse me, you have options to spread the text out. And so we're going to spread them out. You can see that it's doing that for us. And you can change the height of them, how much, where it's sitting, if it's sitting higher or lower based on your design. And certain texts allow you to do certain things to it and others don't. So some texts will let you spread them way out, others will not. As you can see, we're spreading that out pretty far, and then of course we can go through it with that, make sure it's sitting on the line, and there you go. If you decide you want to change the color of your text, click on the text tool. You have to highlight your text, and then simply click up here and choose your text. So if we wanted Bluebird instead, there we go. And there we go. And again, this is very basic stuff, but it's important. The next thing I'm going to do for you is very quickly I'm going to run down a use of each tool for you and what the tool does. The top tool is the move tool. So simply put, it lets you grab a layer and it lets you move it around to wherever you would like it to be. If you're selected on the move tool, you can also, if you want to do small fine adjustments, you can use the arrows on your keyboard, left and right will do small adjustments for you. So that's what the move tool does. This is the rectangle marquee tool, and the rectangle marquee tool can be used for a variety of different things, anywhere from selecting certain items. So if I wanted that particular box, if I wanted that particular part of an image to be highlighted. Something that you should probably know in Photoshop is that when there's a selection made, whatever you do after that is only going to affect that selection. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, I'm going to bring up the opacity so you can see this here. Let's say I'm on the snowboard layer, okay, and I select this area right here. Anything I do from here on out is only going to affect that 100 and that line and everything that's in this box. Everything else will not be affected. So for example, if I change the color, let's see. Let me just grab a paintbrush here just to show you. So I can paint all the way over this, but it's really only going to go in the box because that's the selection. Okay, so again, anything that's selected, that's where the action's going to take place. So if I did this, now if I did that same paintbrush, it's only going to happen within that selection. Okay, and you have different options. You have circle, you can make circles, and you can, If you want to make precise circles, you can hold shift with that and it'll make a perfect circle. There's a lot of different little quirks that you can do. The lasso tool and the magnetic lasso tool, the polygon tool, these are tools, again, selection tools. But these selection tools are not tools that I use personally because I find them to be clumsy. For example, um, the magnetic tool, what it will do is um, you start it running along a line and it will do its very best to stay with the same color. Now for this example, it's going to work out well because it's black and white and there's not a lot of colors to confuse it, but as you can see, if you're not running it along carefully, it can get off track pretty quickly. And then you just connect the points at the end. So I just missed that, but you get the idea. So I don't use that tool. I actually despise all three of these tools, but that's just me. Quick selection tool. Now this is a very handy tool for many different reasons. It's a fairly new tool in Photoshop. Let me just get rid of this burden here. It's basically going to look for an area that it can select for you. And so I clicked once and it collected all that information. So if I wanted to make this snowboard inside color, a different color, but I didn't want this particular foothold to be that color, quick selection basically said, okay, well there's a line right here, so I'm going to make a selection around this line. And so if I hold shift, I can do it again, and as you can see, now it's all the way around this, and it started back over here, and now it's over here. So right now, the thing that is selected is this area in here, this over here, and this over here. These foot pedals are not selected. So if I really wanted to, I could put a gradient in there of whatever color I desired. So let me just do a red into a gray, and we'll just fade it in like that, and we'll just do this. And so you can see that only the area that I have selected is affected. Okay, I'll do it again just to get you a nice red. Okay, so when you want to deselect something, Control D for deselect, and now we're ready to select something else by going back up to our quick selection. And now if I wanted to do the footholds, I could click on that and it's going to instantly grab that. Now, if I don't hold shift, it's going to switch over and it's just going to do the right one that I just clicked on. Alright, so you need to make sure you hold shift to get both items. And you can see that it's a little loose right there. If you have a scroll mouse, then you can set your preferences up, and I would recommend this. If you go to Edit, Preferences, General, Zoom with Scroll Wheel. Make sure that box is checked because that's going to allow your life to get a lot easier. Also, in the Performance tab, where it says History States, make sure that's put to 1,000. That's how many times you can go backwards without, right now it's set to 20 because that's your default. You want to make that a lot more so you can have a lot of opportunity to go backwards with Control Z and then Control Alt Z if necessary. So just for this example, we have these two things selected. If I want to, I could fill them with a certain color. I can do that a bunch of different ways. I could of course use the paintbrush, which a lot of amateurs will do. Or you can just go to Edit Fill, and you've got an option for foreground color, which is the red selected over here, background color, which is white, and those can be changed at any time. Or you can go to color, and you can actually check and choose your color. So I'm going to choose black. I'm going to hit OK, and boom, now I have those black. So to get rid of them, Control D, and you can see that the selection that we just made wasn't 100% clean, and the reason you can tell that is because there's a white outline around here, and that to me would be unacceptable. You would not you would not want to do that. So you'd want to make sure your selection is much tighter than that. Magic Wand tool acts very similar to the quick selection, but as I told you before, if you don't hold shift, you're only going to be able to select one thing at a time. The crop tool you're probably familiar with the crop tool. You can literally just crop a specific section out. If I hit enter right now, half my board will be gone. And there it is. So Control Z to get back to the full thing. If you find a specific color in one layer that you really like, for example, let's say I really like this red, I can use this eyedropper tool and I can click on it, and now I have that color selected that I can use later on. The spot healing brush is really meant for cleaning up, like if you had somebody with acne, or if you you had a mark on your page that you really want to get rid of. I could actually probably get rid of these lines in this 170 with this tool. Let's see, yeah, see what it's doing. Basically, the spot healing brush is looking for something that's close to it. So it takes a survey of all the pixels around it, and then it basically it does a calculation to see what it likes better. You have the brush, just a paintbrush tool, so of course whatever color selected down here you can now draw with. Okay, and of course you can change your brush sizes and shapes and colors and all that good stuff right over here. You have the pencil tool, the color replacement tool. The pencil tool is just a thinner line. The clone tool is an extremely helpful tool. So this 100 in this line that we have here, we could get rid of. To use this tool, you have to grab a source. So this source is white that we want. So we're going to hold Alt, which you notice changes our target, and we're going to click on the white. And now anything that if we click on the left mouse, and you can see that it is taking it and putting in white. Okay. You'll probably not use that. This is the eraser, so we can erase things if you need fit. Let's see, gradient tool. You can add gradients to things, as we did. We can add a gradient, and you can change the color of the gradients to however you want. You could add a new layer down over here. So I just skipped over here, but on the very bottom you have this new layer. It says create new layer, and it's blank. And so whatever layer is on the top, that is the layer that is going to be shown. So for example, if I have this layer at the top and I decide I'm going to fill it with a color, let's just use this color. That's the only color that you can see. So in order for that board to be visible, I would need to drag that color down below, or I would need to do some alteration to this so that you could see, the layers below it. I don't want to get too advanced because there's a lot of things, and I'm probably already overwhelming you. Dodge tool. You can darken things and lighten things with the dodge and burn tools. The pen tool is my favorite tool. It's a selection tool. So when you want a super precise selection of something, this allows you to make a selection just by clicking. And you'll see as soon as the computer catches up with itself here. And then we right click and make a selection. Feathering is how soft you want your selection to be. So if I typed in a high number, it's going to be a very round object. If I type in like a 2, it's going to stay very close to what it is. It's just going to soften around the edges. So I'm going to use 4, and there it is. And so now I could fill this, I could cut this part out, I could do pretty much whatever I wanted to do with this. Um, let's just fill it just so you can have an example. There we go. And of course now what you've seen is that we didn't actually do this on the red layer, we did this on the blue layer. So it did not affect the red layer. It affected the blue layer. So it's very important to make sure that you're on the correct layer when working. Um, always make sure you're on the right layer. So I don't want that selection anymore. Control D. Again, this is your text tool. This is just a shape tool, so if I want just a plain Jane rectangle somewhere, whatever I want to do, it's just going to keep adding rectangles. However, you can add borders to them or not. The last project I was doing, I needed borders, so that's why there's a border on it. We'll just get rid of all those. This hand tool lets you just move around inside the object, so if you're zoomed in very close like I am right now to inspect the document, you can use the hand tool. If you're not on the hand tool and you're on the move tool, you can hold spacebar and you can move around the same way, just so you know. This magnifying tool does exactly what your scroll wheel does now. Lets you zoom in and out. And this lets you change your foreground and background color. And that's kind of it for right now. Well, the last thing we'll show you how to do, so if we wanted to save this as a Photoshop file, we're going to go to File, Save As. And PSD is the Photoshop file. And so you'd want to give it a name. Snowboarding example. And we would save it. And what a Photoshop file does is it keeps all these layers over here on the right hand side intact. If you save it as a JPEG, what it's going to do is flatten all of these images. And that's not what we want. So hopefully this helps you out. I'm happy to do a few more of these if you found them useful. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.